All right, so I'm going to try recording this again, and hopefully, I don't know if anybody else looked at the recording, but the audio was all spotty on it. I think it's partly because of this microphone that they gave me, so I'm going to try a different way this time. And I'll record it again, and at least you can have it. So, how was the homework?
Oh, it was great. Which one? The PDF. I allowed it.
Oh, so you already did that? You skipped ahead to the last part?
Yeah. No. I mean the PDF.
Oh, you just like the whole setup of it and all the instructions, how it was just walk step by step by step. Yeah, it's great, right?
It's very great. Yeah.
Yes. That was my old professor from Brigham Young University who that's like his specialty is he's all about BIM, and he was an estimator, and so that's kind of his focus. And so he put that together, puts it out online for everyone to see, and so it's a really great first resource for this whole process. So I'm glad you guys like it. Yeah, and I shot you another email. I think I wish that there was a way to be able to pick from a drop-down list to choose the variables. Yeah. But you just have to make sure you're spelling it the exact same as what it is up above.
Yeah, I even took like a screenshot of my footage from Dropbox to see.
Yeah, I shot you an email, so you can read that, and but yeah, it can be frustrating sometimes, but just read the email, you'll see. So good. I'm glad that worked well. That is yours. That PDF is a good resource for you guys to have to take for when you forget about my class in a few months and you're like, crap, how did I do that again?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great way to be able to have that.
Actually, we'll be very happy to get more PDFs.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. I mean, because
Totally.
we don't
you want to be able to take
day.
stuff.
We don't
So,
do it,
yeah, it is useful.
Yeah. So,
And the wording is great because some professors will just give you like, what are you talking about?
Right.
yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah. Well, though we're in the process of developing more things like that, but I'm also going to share with you a link where there's a few more from him of different things, and so I'll make sure you guys have access to those to do some additional things within Navis, like creating some custom mapping of variables and things, and he kind of breaks it down as well. Yeah.
It just occurred to me, and I didn't put it on the paper, but based on what we're talking about, it sounds like as you're developing more things for the class, well, we'll be out of the class.
Sure.
So could you keep us on the email list for future stuff like that? I don't know if it's possible. Keep it in mind, because hopefully, it's stuff as we're developing we can use.
Right. So, like, if I came up with a new revision or a new layout of a step-by-step tutorial, just kind of have you guys on a little email.
Yeah, if you wouldn't
Email
mind.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could probably. I know this is going to be taught once a year, so I think it's going to be every winter. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's what I have you as in my Outlook. So yeah.
I'm wondering why it's just once a year. But it's very important that this one.
I think so.
Era.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel nice.
Like, FYI, I think you guys would enjoy this good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's any people.
I don't know about you, but I don't work with
Normally,
It seems small.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
It does. Yeah.
for me to like.
But this
It's
is
gonna be my last one by two. So it's normally the 24, 20.
Twice a year.
Yeah. But I think this is a harder subject.
Correct.
Yeah.
So part of that is like my availability and commitment to it, right? So
You mean you're not committed?
so it takes a lot of effort, and I've
But we're your first class.
I know.
That's right.
You can't forget us. We're your first.
That's
course not.
Guys, this is a state class, it's not a 12.
That's right. So yeah, just some things like that go into account. If there was maybe another instructor who could do it part-time as well, or if I decide to do it more quarters, but that would just be the reason why isn't offered more. It's just because just balancing it out. So because I got my other job, right, my day job. So, but this has been a good experience. I think as each class as it goes. I know when Todd taught it last year, who was the previous instructor, he learned a bunch of stuff and developed through and got it to a point, and then I was able to pick it up from there, and then I've learned a bunch of stuff while I've taught as well, and so it's just going to keep developing and hopefully getting better and better. So.
Is this your first time you teach ever?
In like a university setting. Yeah. So, any other questions on like the homework or anything like that?
Question about how we can get extra credit.
Extra credit?
I want to get A in this class. I don't know how. I'm trying to.
Yeah, I've thought about that, and we could possibly set something up for the last couple classes where I can have some additional things on the homework that you can do for extra credit. And I still need to look down and look at all the grades and kind of see where everyone's at, and from that standpoint, how much extra credit I should offer, things like that. Because I want it to be fair, but I also want you guys to, if you put in the effort, you should be able to get some more points.
I'm going to get 3.6 GPA. So
That's good.
I'm going to get my honor when they're going to give it to me.
Exactly. That's what we're all shooting for.
Yeah. So yeah, I can look into that for you guys this next few weeks. Okay. Okay. So this week we're going to be talking about into the Revit side, kind of some tips and tricks and some good practices for when you get a Revit model from the architect, how to convert that into a good Navisworks model for quantification. And then also we're going to talk about doing 2D takeoff within Navisworks. Okay? 2D and 3D. So, going to go through these briefly, and then we're going to kind of practice them. Okay, so something that is going to happen for almost all your models you get from your architect is that your model is going to be attached to a central file. And maybe some of you guys saw this when you were been opening the Revit files. It takes forever to load. And then it finally says, central model not found. What do you want to do? And you can just say cancel, and it says it again, central model not found, you'll lose this and such work set. And so you just hit cancel and it opens and you're okay. So there's a way to open up your Revit file with detached from that central model. And so then it quickens up your opening time, and just you don't have to worry about anything with that central model. And just so you know, a central model is a tool within Revit where you have, it's like work groups. So if you have your model on a server, you can have several people working on that model, and it governs it by having one central model file, and you're all kind of attacking bits and pieces of it. So it's a way to kind of network and be able to work quickly with a big team on one model. So you, as an estimator, you don't need to have that capability. You just want to open it and export it out to Navis, right? And so the way to detach it from the central is, if you look here, so if you just open up Revit by itself and then click open, instead of just clicking on the Revit file, then it brings up this dialog. But if you just click on the Revit file and then it opens up Revit, you've skipped the step where you can help. So the key is to always open up Revit first, and then where it has this open dialog, you click Open File, browse to it. So here you click Open, and so for instance, if you click on it, you notice down here the work sharing, so you can click Detach from Central. Okay? So by default it's off. So if I click Detach from Central, then when I open it, it gives you this prompt. Detach and whoops. You're supposed to do the bottom one. Detach and discard from work sets, because we don't need those work sets anymore. And so it'll open either way, but it's just one extra thing that you don't need, and will make it open quicker. So again, not essential, but we're about being efficient, right? So that's important to note when you're opening up your Revit files. Okay, and then once you're in Revit, you have several viewing options that you're going to have problems with again. So an architect could have on their 3D view section boxes, phasing, and also analytical model info in there that you don't necessarily want to see. And so you can change all these settings and make it so it's a nice clean model with exactly the geometry that you want to export into Navis, and get rid of all the stuff that you don't need. Okay? So phasing is a tool that the architect uses, so you could have, say, an existing phase. So you could assign model elements to be existing, and then you can assign a new construction model element. So that's commonly what phasing is used for within the model. So could be helpful for you as an estimator to be able to differentiate those two, to take them off separately. Or you maybe just want it all together and you go from there. Sometimes they have a phase 1 and a phase 2 that's set up in there as well. So the phasing, as you can see on this screenshot here, is under the Properties menu of the 3D view. So if I click here, go to my just default 3D view. If I see down here on the Properties tab, if you scroll all the way down, you have the phasing. And so it's set to new construction. And if there were existing, this one I don't think has any existing, but you can change the phase right here. You can also have a phase filter where it does any combination of the different phases. This one's pretty simple, there's only 2 phases. So I usually go show all, and I'm doing new construction. And then hopefully that's your entire model. Okay? So that's something that you'll run into, whether the model looks all messed up and parts are missing or something, check the phasing. Okay? Another thing is with scope boxes and selection boxes. Okay? Or sorry, section boxes. So within the Revit model, also under this Properties tab, under the Extents view, you can turn on section boxes. And so an architect maybe, you can have a section box here that sections down the model. Stupid thing. Sorry. right? You can kind of get the idea that you can have 3D view with a little section box. And so sometimes you may get a model that has this section box down, and you're like, what's going on? How do I, what's wrong here? And so in that case, you can turn off the section view, the section box, by under this extents view, right? So you just turn that off, and then it has no section boxes on there.
Is that also used for grid lines?
Not necessarily, no. It's more for if the architect has set up a 3D view for like a rendering in the plan. And so you want to show just the curtain wall. And so they want to get rid of everything else around it and just show like one corner of the wall. You do a section box, put that on a sheet.
Can you use that for like a details of like what you're finishing? Is that what it is? Like when it's coming through the blueprint, there's like a pieces or the front, or I don't know, they have to redraw it or they take a part of that.
Yeah, so yeah, for like elevation
Yes.
view or detail view. So yeah, they don't have to redraw it. It would just be referencing a part of the model. But this would be like for a orthographic rendering, something like that, where they want to show in 3D on the plane. So they'd section down the 3D model and then place that little picture on the plan. So, and also, see how this box is showing? You can also make it so this box doesn't show, but it's still sectioned down, right? So, for instance, if I have this section down and I don't want to see this box around it, you can change that in the visibility and graphics settings. Okay? And so again, that's going to be this window right here.
If I would like to make a couple sections and save it here, how can I do that? So now this section I would like to save it.
Do you like to save how it's kind of modeled down?
Yeah, where we used to save the section here on the bottom, on the left bottom. Can we do that?
Yeah, so down here, see how there's 3D views here? And so you can, I know you can save the view, and I apologize, I don't save it very often. So I believe you can, if I duplicated this and then I can rename it, so now if I were to come just to my normal 3D view, then I can jump back to my custom 3D view that has all the settings how I want it. So yeah, in the project browser, I like it over here. It's not. It's a struggle. So yeah, so if you wanted to export out just a portion that you just need to estimate for, and you wanted to kind of have two NWCs, this is one way that you could do that. And so like I was saying, you can make it so this box either is here or isn't here, as well as a bunch of other items like the analytical model, if it's showing up and you don't want it to. You do that under visibility and graphics. So it's under view and visibility graphics, or the shortcut is VB. Okay? And so that comes up to the visibility and graphics overrides. You have model categories, annotation, analytical model, and notice it's all turned off. So if I turned this on and then applied it, that will show any analytical models that are there. Under model categories, you could turn off just all your ceilings. You could turn off all your roofs. You could turn off portions that you don't want to see. And again, everything that is here, everything that you see on your 3D view when you export, that's what shows up in Navis. So if it's hidden, it's not going to show up in Navis. Does that make sense? So if you want to piece it out and then append them all into one, you can in Navisworks. So, for instance, if you come down to the S's, I always come down and make sure that my scope boxes and section boxes are, they're under annotation categories. So under annotation, scope boxes and section boxes. Those are two things that I always make sure are off when I'm exporting anything from Revit. And so if I hit apply,
Why?
because it looks ugly. And so when I'm looking in here, for instance, so usually I'm not going to have a section box, so I'm going to uncheck that here so I get the full model. And then a lot of times when you have a scope box on, around every single main item, a box, kind of like how our section box looked, would show up around it. And so that just gets annoying to me, and so that's when I just go VV, I go to my annotation, I turn off my scope boxes. And I'll show you on another model where that becomes more annoying. But, so just so you know, all these, if there's something that looks weird on your model, or is not the way you want it, you can change the visibility of it in here, the visibility graphic overrides. Okay?
If you change the visibility, you set it for more.
Correct. So,
The quantity will.
no. Yeah. So, and if I hide all the railings, and say, remember we go to the sunglasses, and I want to hide the whole category of railings, and now I exported this into Navis, it would come through with no railings. And so you're exporting the current view. Okay? So, like I said, I usually go under the annotation categories and make sure my scope boxes and section boxes are not visible, and then I turn off any section boxes within the extents category of my properties menu. And then sometimes you'll get a model that has site or topo with it, right? So in that case, you have the same thing. I don't want to have my topo in my export to Navis. And so if I just go VV and I go under model categories, and there's one for site and one for topo. So I could turn off my site and my topography. And then you'd be left with just your building, right? If you wanted the topo, you could have just the topo, turn everything else off. Okay?
Are you using VG, VB,
VV,
or VB?
yeah, two V's, and I think VG also does it. There's two shortcuts for it. VV's quick, it's just boom boom, the two letters right away. Okay. So once you get your model how you like it, you need to export it to an NWC, right? And there's a few options that you can change during your export that affect how it's organized. So if we come into Revit and You have to be in the 3D view that you want. Everything's how we want it right now. Export to an NWC. And it pulls up, if you click this Navisworks settings, that's where you can choose a few different settings. And the main one that you're going to want to look at is whether or not this is divided into levels. Okay? So you've seen on some of the NWCs that I've had you do for homeworks, there's been, in the model tree, a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, and a roof level, and it's split out. Sometimes it's kind of annoying, right? Because you have walls and all of them, you got to find them all. So, but other times it's good because that's a quick way to be able to, or an easy way to separate your takeoffs by level, right? So you could have a different item in your quantification workbook for each level. So that way when it comes out, it's already separated by level if that's what you need. So depending on how you want to do your takeoffs, you can either divide it into levels or not. And everything else I always keep as default. So you could try messing around with those, but that's the only one that I ever deal with. And then also you could change here, if you wanted to just do the entire project no matter what view you're on, there's an option to do that. If you just wanted to export your selection, you could do that. I recommend just doing always the current view. Make the view how you want it, then export the whole view. Okay?
And you wouldn't do the interface here versus within Navisworks? No, like change the units?
No. What do you mean the units? Like,
No, from cubic feet to cubic yards.
yeah, that would just be done within Navisworks.
Or the first, because the interface when we go to options of Navisworks. That
Right.
makes sense, because it's showing there the tree on the left that shows the interface.
Mm-hmm. Right here, the properties.
No, in the options editor.
So you're saying,
Over to the left,
mm-hmm.
up there, the interface. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, display unit.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it would. That's probably you're right. You probably want to keep it all in the correct units before you export it. I believe though, it may just do it for you when it comes into Navisworks, but I think you're right. You'd probably want to just do it in. I was going to look for decimal feet, but it looks like it's just feet. Correct. So that would be good practice to make sure your display units are correct. So again, come in here and you can divide it into levels or not. And then you have your NWC. So I'll just go ahead and divide it into levels. And then I'll also do one that's a scope box and not divided into levels. And you can kind of see the difference. Section box, I apologize. And so remember I made it so you can't see it, so that's why I turned it on, but what's going on? So I go VV, annotation, section boxes. Okay, now I can see my section box. So if I wanted to have if I didn't want to have this bridgeway in there, could make it so I just want to export this. I don't believe it will. We're going to find out. So this one I'm going to change to not divide into levels. And then we'll see kind of the differences. So again, depending on how you want your takeoff done, you have a lot of flexibility in the way that your Navisworks model is organized. And that all happens with how you export it from Revit. So you could export each level as a separate model. I don't know why you'd want to do that, because you already have the ability to break it out by levels in Navis. But if you wanted to do a half of a building, you could export that first and then export the other half, so that your model tree, you can drag in the quantities that you want, so you can have it separated in the way that you like.
Is there a benefit into doing that? Like, why would you choose to do that if you were just working on a certain area of the building?
So a lot of times I'll need to break out my estimate by core and shell, exterior improvements, and then I'll have like a couple phases within the building. Phase 1, phase 2. So if it's like a remodel, you'd have phase 1 is all of level 1 and part of level 2. Phase 2 is the other half of level 2, and then it moves on to another part. So if it was segmented really nicely in geometric things, this would work great. So you have this half is going to be phase 1. I'll export that. The other half is phase 2. I'll export that. And so that way I don't have to be clicking through and saying, oh, just these walls are phase 1. Drag that into my quantification. I can just say everything in my model tree that's from the first phase, I know that's all in that phase. So actually, let's just load. That's the wrong one. So if we open this up, we see I have all the different levels that were created in Revit have come through. And so within each one, you can see what's a part of it. Right? Some of them may or may not even have geometry associated, but it's whatever levels are associated in the model show up here. So now let's go ahead and append in my other test combined, and I can have them both in here, and I'll go ahead and hide the test levels by clicking hide. And so you see that now it's just that geometry, right? That my section box down. So it doesn't have this portion. And when I open this up, it's not split up into levels. So again, it's how you got to think about what your deliverable is for your estimate, and then make sure you set up your Navisworks the right way so that you can achieve that deliverable the easiest way. If you just need to know everything that's in that, I would just not separate by levels. Export it and you have it all there. It's very simple. All the floors are in here, usually, right? Sometimes generic models has all sorts of things. But so does that make sense? That's an important thing to be able to know how to do. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to use the DWF file format. Now, DWF it's a more of a universal file format, and so there are several other programs that can read a DWF. And sometimes it's kind of more of a snapshot in time, right? It's like a read-only file, can't be edited, and similar to like a NWD. But so basically, the cool thing about a DWF is that it can have both 2D and 3D. So it can be a model and also have 2D sheets associated with it. Okay. So the downside is if you pull a DWF into Navisworks, it's going to have not as much detail in that model tree. And so if you're doing takeoffs by pulling from the model tree, it may make things a little more difficult. You might have to do more search sets or actually picking from the model and dragging in. But if you want to be able to have this functionality, or if you only have a DWF, you can still use it. So it's pretty simple. You just go File, Export, and then a DWF. So within Revit, I'm going to turn off my section boxes. And I'm going to export to a DWF. So in here, you can change the settings to all the in-session view, so everything that's in the sheet set. And then you can say all views and sheets in the set. And this one is not showing. Oh, there we go. All views and sheets in the model. So that'll show everything that's here in your project browser. So every sheet that the architect has made. So I can choose my regular 3D view, and then I can find my floor plan, the one at 0, elevation 0. Okay? So I just want to have one floor plan and one 3D view. And then I'll go ahead and save it. Okay. And then you'll see when I open, I'm going to actually append it in again, so I'll have all three on here. And I'm going to say look for all files. Oops. So there's my DW. Nope, that's not the one I just did. I want this one. Yes, I want to add the additional ones in. So I'm going to hide my old one again. So now you see there it is. Looks like it got put in a different coordinate somewhere else. So there it is. See how it looks kind of a little different, but it's the same geometry. And if you open up your project browser, and we'll go over this more when we practice together. Thanks. So you can see here's the model, and then here's the floor plan. So it's loaded in this sheet here. So you can reference both 2D sheets within Navis, and if you notice, if I click on items of this wall, it shows up in my model tree. And so they kind of talk to each other. So if I take something off in the 3D DWF, it's going to show up as colored and taken off here in my 2D.
So you that's only for like embedded visualization when you are doing the estimate, or
Yeah, so it can be that. It can be just being able to look at a floor plan. Sometimes it's just if I want to take off something from the floor plan, it's easier to do a one-time takeoff if it's not modeled. I can just come in here and draw like carpet, for instance, and come in and draw an area of a carpet that I want, and that'll show up in my quantification workbook. So it's a way to, if not everything's modeled, you can still do it the old-fashioned way, but keep it all in the same system, instead of using on-screen takeoff and Navis separately. So the next part of the class is going to be jumping more into actually doing 2D takeoff, but I want to have you guys practice doing those steps that we did from the beginning, so opening up the Revit file. So go ahead and open up your folder under the Stuart Lang folder. And click on the elementary classroom building. And you can go ahead and just click on it and then see what happens. You can kind of see both sides. So if I double click on the elementary classroom building, so because I already have it open, it won't even let me. That isn't on. Is it opened yet?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So you got all those errors, and it's saying yada yada yada. It's got issues, local central file. So now close it, and then try opening just from the Revit. So you have Revit here, then you click Open. You click on the file and then detach from Central. And then you want to detach and discard work sets. So we don't really care about the work sets.
Where is that?
Yeah, so when you
On the desktop.
the actual file?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's under the shortcut to student
Oh, student data.
student data, and then my folder Stuart Lang, and then week 8, and elementary classroom. Yeah, so the main difference is you have a quicker open time, and you don't have to worry about any errors that come up.
Yeah.
So really, you'll probably end up getting the same export. That won't be any. Yeah. And once you open it detached the first time, you can then save it, and then it's no longer it's no longer attached. So every time you open it, you can just click on it and it opens and it's fine. So yeah, so then open, detach, because sometimes you'll get a file and it just takes forever to open up, and it's just annoying. So, okay, and then I'll just open the same one, detach, and now let's go ahead and change your visibility settings. So I tried to make it so that it came up with the section box on, but I found out when you detach from the central, that goes away. So it's going to try and throw you guys off. But so try turning on and off your section box, and to do that, you can't do that in the 2D view it came up in. So you have to go to the 3D view. So that brings up the model. And then you can go to Extents over here in the Properties tab. And you can turn on the section box. And there's also, you know, all these other things that could be on or off. But the section box, if you wanted to section something down, if you click on it, you see all the different arrows in the different directions. And that's how you would change what's sectioned. You can also drag this corner to rotate it. Go to Visibility and Graphics. Yeah. Sure. It's under Extents. So over here, you can see you can check on the section box. And like I said, sometimes you'll open up a model and either nothing will be there or it'll just be part of it. So you need to turn off that section box to be able to see the whole model.
Can you make your box not look like a box, or is it always a box and I'm
It's always a box, yeah. So it must just be a weird angle or something.
Okay.
And so then again, VV to get to your visibility and graphics overrides, or do it the old way and under View, Visibility Graphics. And then try turning off some of the visibility of some items and then applying it. So for instance, we can turn off all of the ceilings, doors, and roofs. And hit Apply. And now our model is just walls and windows. So if you had a model that had a bunch of furniture and you didn't, it's all just for show, and it was pictures and pretty, and you didn't want any of that to muck up your estimate and your takeoff, just turn them off and export it without the furniture. So you have a lot of flexibility in the way that you can have your model show up. Go ahead and go down to the annotation categories and then turn off scope boxes and section boxes. And hit apply. And that's more just for visibility, just so it doesn't get hard to see what's going on. And then once you get it sectioned down, let's go ahead and export it and split it into levels. So to do that, File, Export, NWC. And then when you're in the dialog box, you click Navisworks Settings. And then you can change this to divide file into levels. Hit OK. And then go ahead and save it somewhere on your Z drive.
You said we have to make sure it's in the right images, right?
Oh, we were going to check that, see how it came through. But I did change it, didn't I? I changed it into feet. So, yeah, because I always thought that it just kind of, it was able to go both ways. Because when you set up quantification, you set it up in imperial. You could choose metric or imperial. So I think the logic is in there. Either way you export it.
So again, how you open the 2D
Sure. Yeah, so you have to make sure your project browser is visible, and that's under View in Windows. And then the very bottom is Project Browser.
So for the Navisworks setting, we don't need to change anything on ports and
Yeah, so it's just changing if you want to divide it into levels or not. So I was saying we should change it to yes, divide into levels. I don't know what's default. I think default is not.
It was checked.
It was checked? Okay, so the default is to divide into levels. So yeah, so you don't need to change anything in this case. You can just verify though.
Can you show again when you go to that project?
Oh, yeah. So to get the project browser, I go to View, and then Windows, and Project Browser.
Oh, and that is.
Yeah, that's in Navis. I wonder you couldn't find it, huh? And so that brings up your project browser, which shows you all the different models and sheets that are in
Yeah, or you could change something.
your open file. Okay. Guys all got to this point where you have a model that's split into levels. If you notice, what's missing here? Yeah, floor's missing. So, a couple ways you can get around this. We need to take off the floor, right? We need to have that. And so you can either draw the floor in Revit and then export it. That would be one way to do it. Just draw it in, and that way you can get the volume, the perimeter, and the area all just pop from the model. Or you can do a 2D takeoff. So I'm going to turn everything back on. And so if I wanted to draw in the floor, I'd go to one of my floor plans. That's probably the easiest way. So go to my About above finished floor, that's what AFF is, right? So AFF 0, so that's my 0 level. And I can draw in a floor. Go to architectural, floor, and I can change, I want this to be a 6-inch floor. And I'm going to pick lines. I'll let everyone get there. You guys can do this as well. So go to in Revit, the AFF 0 floor plan.
Oh, we're in Revit.
Yeah. So this happens sometimes. If something's missing in the model, we can fix it. That's the beauty of having the Revit license, is you can do anything that the architect could do. And so I'm actually going to do pick walls. I think that might be easier. So you can do it by just drawing your own line, or you can say pick an actual line that's there. But I'm going to say pick the walls, because that's going to be the easiest. So then you can just kind of pick the walls, go around the building. This is a pretty in and out building, so it's kind of annoying. So I'm just kind of going through. And if things don't totally line up right now, don't worry. We can join them after, like if there's a little corner that you can't get all the way connected. Oops. So once you get it pretty much all the way around, if you have some areas that aren't quite connecting, you can come here with the trim and extend a corner tool. And then you click on the two edges of the corner you want to be joined. So it's just kind of to make sure these are actually connected here. So look, this one right here, I want to I have to pick this wall to be able to do that. So it's got to be a complete circle all the way around, right? So I'm going to trim this together. Trim that. It's close enough. This, I need to choose another part of the wall. Looks like I missed one. Here. If I hit the delete button, it puts it in delete mode, so it looks like I had an extra line here that I don't want. Click that so I delete it. How's everybody doing? Slow and steady wins the race? You guys getting it? You want to have those walls. And the alternative could be if you want just to kind of simplify it and do a simple box, just for if this was a rough estimate, you could do that too. Again, it's all about knowing the level of detail that you need. This one has a lot of ins and outs, so it's a little tedious in that way.
I don't know, I got just the interior side of the wall. Same, right?
So yeah, so you'll want to get the...
Interior, some of them exterior.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So when you click on it, if you click the modify and you click on it, you can change whether it's the inside or outside of the wall. So I'm going to go make sure I'm on the outside of the wall for everything. So again, I go to modify, and then I click on the line I want to change, and then it gives me that double arrow. So here's one. Yeah, we want to be outside of all the walls. Yeah. Oh, here's another one I forgot. Cannot have overlapping lines. Show. So there. Sure, so if you click modify and then click one, you either hit delete on your keyboard, or right here is the delete.
Go further on.
Even if they're not like really connecting, will it still create a full floor, or all the lines have to connect at a perfect angle in order to calculate the floor?
They have to connect. You can't finish the floor until everything's connected. So that's why you just use this trim tool, and you just click on, if it's, say, if it's overlapping, or if it stops short here, you could just click on these two and it'll join them both. And then there's trim and extend if you would just want one element to be pushed to another one. So now I've got my floor. I hit the checkbox, the green checkbox for finish. And if you have anything that's not connected, it'll alert you. You'll have to fix it. Right here. Then it'll ask you if you want to join, merge to the geometry, and say yes. If you look, my floor's still not there. So something I did wrong. And if you look at this line right here, there's my floor.
Well, you did it on the first floor.
Yeah, I did it. Well, let's look at it. So let's look at the floor, and I'm going to hit WT, and that tiles out my windows, right? So I can have both open at the same time. And if I click on that, yep. So I can put that to 0. And now I'll finish, and I can look, and there's my floor. So now at least it's going to come through in my model, and it looks like it's probably needs to be, there's still kind of a gap, but and if we exported that, now you'd have a model, an element that you can get quantity off of. So that's a little tedious, right? So you have to weigh out, okay, is it worth it for me to go through and model this? Or can I just do a 2D takeoff in Navis based off of the floor plan? So again, it's just kind of have to weigh some of these things out. I don't know why this isn't letting me dock this. Now it docks, but it's over here. Okay. Was everyone able to finish their floor? It's still connecting all the corners. So you're in the trim mode, so you need to have, it needs to connect two corners. It can't do two parallel lines. So select this wall. That looks like it trimmed it for you. And now on this one, you go to trim, and then click these two. It needs to then move to the outside of the wall. So if you modify, click on this one. Now click on that arrow. Now hit trim and click on these two, because there's really two and they're not totally connected now. Yeah, so you need to finish it. So it's just showing the boundary box right now. So if you click it, so it looks like, let's say shut. So you have some that are intersecting each other. Close. So now it should show you there we have two intersections. So yeah, so say continue. Now trim. So actually do. As far as bringing up a good point, you can also do the boundaries in the 3D view if you wanted. In the 3D view instead of the floor plan view. So if you pulled up your 3D view, then you could, looks like that's what you would do. So you can rotate around so you're looking at the bottom rather than looking through the top. So if you say continue after you know where the problem is. So it might be easier just to go to floor plan view. So if you double click on AFF0, now it brings you into just the floor plan. Now if you find those issues, you can fix them. You can either, if you click down on the scroll wheel, you can hold it down, and you move it pans. So it looks like you're going to need one right there. So if you go to the pick wall tool again, click on that little short wall.
This is a double. Really said anything about that one yet. Is that anything that we need to worry about?
That looks, I think maybe we picked, I'm not sure. If you click on the modify, so it's the pointer. And now click on. Can't just click on just the two. Yeah.
So maybe it'll work. Let's see.
Now say show. Have there's two that overlap. It must be this one and then this one. So I would delete this line. So continue. So delete that one. And then
Which extend that.
so you got to use the trim.
Oh, you can't just.
That should work too. And it's probably going to be let's say show.
Oh, that is nice.
You can say don't show that again. Then it doesn't. So it looks like there's some overlapping there as well. So I would just then go ahead and re-pick that wall and then trim. There you go. So now just trim that to that. I would just use the trim tool. So and then click there and there. And then click there and there. So it completes any corner.
Cool.
Oh, whoops, I trimmed it on the wrong side, huh?
Yeah. I know, it's like the one that's completely is the one that's
So you just want to think about the middle of the walls on the inside, right? So as long as you click on those sides of it, it'll
Having some issues.
I think it's already being picked on you going this way. That's why. Yeah. You have to hit select, right? Sorry.
So, here,
Yeah.
and then
Line is
this
too
one,
short.
this one,
So you just drag the end or you use the trim tool.
I want to delete it.
So I would probably click on modify.
Delete this
Yeah, you can't go to you highlight it like I've got something
And
on.
modify there. So I would
And then
trim this to this.
boom.
Absolutely, that's one. This one.
Right there.
Well, what are you trying to do? Oh, okay. Well, that's a
Delete
different
those,
issue.
and we'll just kind of
You
have
now
it on all
extend.
through. So delete
Oh, what happened there? Did you undo it?
and now leave that one in trim. This
Are you sure that's the one it's talking about? Cancel.
it has to be perpendicular lines. So I think there's one right here. They're not.
No, that doesn't expand it. That's okay. So
Now trim those.
there. Okay, yeah. And it'll show the error again. Okay. Oh, this may show a different one. Okay. So
Maybe I delete those.
it depends on which one you want. I limited that. It's up to you.
So
I'm
trim
going
tool
with this
is gonna be
because
able to, like,
I don't know what that is.
trim.
So you either eliminate this or you eliminate that.
I want to eliminate that.
Okay. So eliminate that, not that.
Click on the middle of this line and then
That.
that one. Delete.
Okay, now you're going to have to pull this line
So
back
basically, it
down.
just makes any two perpendicular lines.
Double click it.
Oh, I have to cancel this.
Intersecting.
Oh, that's
And
why.
then just make both, and it'll
Okay. So
continue
drag
both
that
to where
down.
they
Yeah,
intersect.
there you go. And now you can delete that
So
line.
that one is if you just want to push
No,
one
when
line.
you're canceling it, you're
Only push that
going
one
back.
way.
You don't want to cancel on that line. Yeah. Okay, now
It pushes
click on that
multiple
one.
lines to one
Okay.
stationary line.
Delete
That's what that one does.
Yeah.
This one pushes both of them together.
Now delete it.
Does that make sense? So you got one stationary. If you want to have
There you
both
go.
of these all
Now
going
you
to
can
the
go
same
back in
line.
and you can go to the next problem.
Corners. That's the one you want to use.
And I remember that you remember this flat. This was hard. It was design. And I never could master it. Yeah. It was hard. because of things like this little quirky thing.
So you can have the base
I-
level,
I
but if
never
you have an
really-
offset,
Yeah,
it can go anywhere.
I never could quite master.
Yeah, it's weird. So,
You did? Oh,
that's what
interesting.
Mark really that too. So just delete the whole thing and then try just to
Yeah. Well, for you it makes sense because yeah, you're gonna do
I
that.
think it's something that I just keep going. You can always do Control Z. Yeah.
Even if I just like this and highlight the bottom, and just highlight this one.
Yeah, so you're on pick wall. So it's going to pick the wall and then pick either the inside or the outside. So you can just click line.
So that one thing, I don't know what you need to get out of sketch mode. Yeah, and it'll show you the next problem.
It's just
Big- Hold on one second. I'm getting confused myself. Give me a second. Sorry. Okay.
When it's not connected, what you do?
If you're going to connect two pieces, although this one's too long, so click on. Oh, shoot, I didn't mean to do that. Keep doing that. Okay, so what do I do with this one? Do this right. Boom. Yeah, I'm going to have to fix that. So now, I want to get out of this mode. No, I want to go here.
And
I'm gonna
so
do
I
that,
have to
and
copy
I
it
gotta
or something?
Drag that back.
Just to find it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's that. Sorry, so did you have a question?
So there's that.
There you go. Because it's probably so. If
Well, you have to look
You
at
have to
it.
look at it.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to this right here,
Yeah.
right, and then it'll show you the next error. So you, and then you have click on show,
Yeah.
and it'll show you where it is on the model.
Yeah. Still not. It's good not. Probably work in some situations. But it's probably it was set with an offset, so it's hiding up there inside. So if you go.
Overlapping.
Right.
Okay, so there it is here. Oh, that's the whole space. It's like this one there. Yeah, or you hit cancel and so it initiates. So that's what I know what it's going to because you hit cancel, it just discards. So now I'm
What is that?
So like, I mean, you could pick on a
Pick
wall
show.
or a floor. I mean, so let's go to.
Do not yet. Not showing you.
That's another way. That would be a quick way if you knew the exact same. Totally. Totally. This is just to illustrate the point that you can model something if you want and then export it and have to. Yeah.
I can see the
Okay.
finally does it, then what?
So now look at your 3D view. Once you finish it, say yes. You want to join. And now your floor is made. So now if you go into your 3D view, you can see it. Make sure it's in the right place.
Save project.
Yeah, you can save it if you want, but go to your 3. I say go to your 3. Yeah, there you go. Did it just ask you? I guess sometimes it just asks you to save. And then, so your floor looks like it got put up in a higher level. It was offset. So if you can find it,
This one? This one?
that one, you click on it and see what it says. That's the carpet, so that's not it. Did you do it as carpet? Because maybe that is it.
Yeah, I just need to.
Because if you say edit boundary on that carpet that you have selected, does that look like the one you just did?
Yeah.
So looks like it's set. If you scroll that up a little higher to the very top, height offset's 10 feet. You need to change that to 0. So it's starting at level 0, but it's putting it 10 feet higher. So now if you hit apply, and then if you finish the boundary.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's having some issues. Delete this one and just trim it. So just trim one.
It's good.
And now
It's
just
actually
trim it.
pretty easy.
Did you just drag it down? I thought you were joking.
No. So we drag everything down.
Because the slab's just going to go. Nice. So now it's saying, do you want to join it with an adjacent thing? Say yes. Sweet. Now double check in your 3D view and see your floor. This is, you don't have to. You can just skip it.
I got it.
So it looks like you probably had it at, you didn't change the offset. So if you can find it and click on it, so kind of scroll around. So that's that one.
Well, I don't have a floor on
So I think it's that top line.
your stairs.
So you need to put over there. And yeah, kind of bottom.
See, my stairs don't have a floor.
I think it's.
And then,
That's,
Which one? Which is to the north?
so if you can.
floor there.
Just
You
kind
can do
of
that.
there.
I just think they-
Maybe we can do a scope box even, kind of have a section on it so you can see
You know?
through the middle. I think, oh, I know if you orbit up just a little bit.
Wow.
So if you,
What's that? Love.
Oh, inside the, oh, on the clock tower. Because it's 8.
there,
Alright.
now if you scroll to the top,
I love it.
see how it's, line.
I wonder if can you change it?
I wonder if you can
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, makes sense.
No.
Oh,
So,
unless you take the elements apart, then you can probably.
so we're not architects, right? So our main job shouldn't be always doing this of having to redraw stuff. But in the off chance that you want to fix something,
And with architects, you always do.
right? Yeah, and this is you guys have full power to be able to modify the model in whatever way you see fit, as long as you have the Revit file, right? Which is usually what the architect shares with you, is the Revit file. So, okay. Why don't we go ahead and take a break, potty break, and water break, or a smoking break, and then we'll jump back more into 2D takeoff. All right, so we did a little practice. Now, you may or may not use that a ton, but I think it's worthwhile knowing how to model in something if it's not there, if you need to. Again, that could be a door, it could be a wall, a new roof. If you wanted to do that, you could. Okay? So now we're going to get into a little more on 2D takeoff and how to do that specifically. Okay? So again, like I said before, the purpose would be if something wasn't shown on the model, but you still need to quantify it, right? And you don't want to have to do it by hand or do it in a separate program. Now with 2015 of Navisworks, you can do it all in the same program. So I kind of showed you a little bit already how to do that with the project browser, how to bring in different file types. But we're going to start a new file, and I'm going to have you guys do this with me. Well, actually, no, I'll just do it and then we'll do it together after. So I'm going to do in the quantification data set that you did for your homework, and I'm going to open up the architectural model, MOB, medical office building. And I'm going to bring in a PDF. Whoa. Does this already have it in here? I thought I was opening the one without. So, it changed it again. It's annoying not working on your own machine. Turn on the project browser. This is weird. Okay, I'm going to close out of this. Close out of all these. Okay, I'm going to try this one now. Ignore all. Okay. So there's my model, right? It's familiar. And I want to be able to look at the floor plan on this and be able to make some takeoffs from the floor plan. So, in particular, floor coverings are something that isn't typically modeled. Sometimes it is, but like you have your slab and your floor structure, but maybe the carpet isn't modeled. You know, maybe. So if I wanted to do my takeoff of my carpet and keep it all in the same export, when I export my quantification workbook, I can still do that. So I come here to my project browser. Again, View, Windows, Project Browser, and I can add a new import a sheet or model. So I'm going to import, and I'm going to look for my PDF. And it's going to be under the quantification data set. And here's the floor plan. All right. So let's first do the DWF, and then I'll show you how to do the PDF. I apologize. So here's the 2D sheets. Sorry, this is the one. This is the one I want. The DWF. I double click on it, now I have my 2D sheet, right? And so if I have my quantification workbook open, I'll do 48 imperial, change this to cubic yards. And I can come here and do a takeoff of my floor. So for instance, if I want to do this flooring here in this classroom, I can use the area tool and I can start my takeoff. And it snaps to walls and lines, so I can be fairly accurate. And then once you're finished with it, you right-click to finish it. Okay? And so now you notice here, I've got my new item that has an area of 2,425 square feet. So the DWF is already scaled and modeled. It's already scaled.
It's already in WBS 15.
So I took it off. I think it went to just the, since I didn't choose one before,
Oh, you did.
it just went to, this is so, all these different, it just went to a new item by itself. I could have either made an item, my item catalog, under finishes, new item, and called it floor 1. And so now, for instance, I'll just go ahead and add another area, and this will be this room. Right click, and now I added it right to this floor 1. And then you have your area, 791 square feet. And then if you want to jump back to your model, you can. With my teeny little windows here. So it's a way to be able to, again, just keep it all in one place. Maybe you find this a little clunky and you just rather get everything you can from the model and then use your other software for 2D. You can totally do that as well. But if you wanted to have the option to do both, you totally can. Something to note as well, oh my goodness, come on, is that when you bring in a PDF, that PDF, the DWF, it brings in everything in that file by default. So if you have a PDF that's 600 pages, and you bring it in, it's going to bring in every page all the way down. So maybe you don't need that. Maybe you just bring in the floor plans. Maybe you just bring in the elevations. You'd have to separate those in their own files. Okay. So any questions on that? I mean, just kind of showing the basic concept. You can do 2D takeoff from your 3D model when you pull in 2D sheets. So in order to be able to use PDFs, you have to download a plugin. and it's shown on the tutorial of quantification. And so if you follow this link, and you sign in, if you have your Autodesk account, you can get this PDF reader onto your machine. So it may have problems on this machine, so we'll find out right now. But on your home ones, definitely that's the way that you can get this plugin on your version. So I gotta remember what my login is. You guys have password apps? Or do you just remember all your passwords?
Really?
Oh yeah. I die without this thing.
Let's just make it the same.
What? You get hacked so easy.
No, same password for different stuff. Yeah. It's
I have a few different.
Yeah, I have like 3 that I use regularly.
There's like the super high security one for a few of the really stuff I, and then like a medium one, and then one for everything else.
Right.
So if you sign in, which I should be signed in, why does it still say? Totally did.
You want my account?
It just memorizes a series of letters and numbers, and that's what it is, so they're random.
Whoa, that's pretty hardcore.
What are they?
No. I just typed,
Just one.
I did
You don't
this,
trust us?
I did this and this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I printed it and I memorized it. So I didn't know anything.
Interesting.
Pretty evil.
Mac will
Thanks.
create a random
One
string
day,
for you if you
thanks.
wanted to, but
When
if
I'm
you're not
old.
using a Mac, but you're at work using a PC, it's
Right. Yeah.
A lot of passwords.
So it looks like it's working.
sort of.
And so maybe I can show you on my computer since I already have it up and running. But then again, you can't practice on yours. But the gist of it is the same. You're pulling in a sheet. Looks like the DWF, except it won't snap to lines. And then you can just draw your 3D, your area condition on that 2D surface.
It won't snap though, like the DWF.
Correct.
You can't make a PDF
I don't think.
But you can bring it into Revit and then from Revit bring it into that so you can snap.
It kind of depends on how the PDF was made, but because sometimes PDFs do have vector data that snap to, but if it's like a scanned or if it's raster format, then it won't have stuff to snap to. So
You can, or you can use Bluebeam.
yeah, totally. Do your takeoffs for 2D, anything you have left in Bluebeam.
And it gives you something you can export to Excel too.
Totally, yeah. I use Bluebeam every day. So it looks like we might not be able to do this on the lab computers, but let's go ahead and have you guys practice. Just going to double check and see if it's in here. Let's have you practice doing the DWFs. And so basically what I want you to do is go into the file and open up that quantification version 3 document again. And starting on page 13 is where it talks about doing 2D takeoffs.